when all of this happened, I was already going through a bit of a transition. So 2019 was a year where I had a lot to contemplate in terms of I'm getting older. Where is my life going? What is it that I want to do now? My children are grown. So I had a lot of thinking time to do. And then 2020 hit and COVID-19 hit.
Hello and welcome to Obehi podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
So I was working, I was still working at that time. And it was hard because it was very much the unknown. Nobody really knew what was happening. Nobody understood the whole COVID thing initially, and the whole country, the whole world went into lockdown. And then the George Floyd thing happened. So there was a lot of emotions for me. There was so much to think about. And so whilst I was working on the front line, helping and supporting, there was all of this, almost like a mental health thing. There was anxiety for me as well. What is my purpose? Although I knew that I'd worked all these years in the health profession, I knew there was more to me than that. There was something else that I needed to bring. And the whole COVID-19, the George Floyd thing, actually took me back and reflect on where my life was going. What was it that I really wanted? What was my purpose in this season? Because I think over the years, things change. You evolve. So, when I first started working in the health profession, I was working as a nurse on the wards, and then things evolve over time. I worked in medical education, so I taught in medical education as well. So, my career evolved, and now I was at this place where I was evolving again. And when there's a shift, and you know that you have to do something, you have to move, it gets really uncomfortable. Not because it was COVID-19 per se, but that was the catalyst that shook me up. It shook me up. It's like, right, what am I doing now? What is my purpose in this season? And it was at that time that I decided that I'd been toying with the idea of taking early retirement anyway, to concentrate on the work that I had been doing informally, which was supporting women. It wasn't necessarily at that time around narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse. It wasn't that per se, but it was about supporting women like myself who had got to a particular age, who knew that there was something more that they had to give, but what was that? So it was helping women who found that, the children had flown the nest, had left home. And so you were in this place of kind of limbo as women, and it's like, oh, what am I doing now? Where is my life going? So that's kind of where I found myself in 2020. And I decided that I was going to just take early retirement and leave and actually do the things that I really wanted to do. It was the whole COVID thing was a very much a catalyst moment, a turning point in my life. This was the time that I needed to make the move now while I can. So that's actually what happened. I have absolutely no regrets, none whatsoever. There are still challenges because it was very new. I mean, I think I had my rose-colored glasses on, and I just thought, I'm going to leave my job and I'm just going to start my own business and work and help all these women. There was lots of things that I had not considered. So it has been challenging setting up your own business, working for yourself, because now everybody's looking at you. Whereas before, it was about working for an organization. So you represent the organization. So it's not necessarily about you. When you're working for yourself, everybody's looking to you. It's a very vulnerable place to be, because you have to show up and be visible, and if you're not used to that, that is a bit, oh my goodness, I can't hide behind my label as a physician associate working for the NHS in the UK. I am showing up as Marcia Hylton, as me. This is me. And that can be a very vulnerable place to be. However, as much as there's been challenges, I would not change it for the world. It's a different set of challenges. When I was working and there were challenges, I was stressed. I was becoming ill. I don't have that now. I don't have that. In spite of the challenges, there's joy. There is joy because I'm doing what I absolutely love. If you are in a relationship where you don't feel safe with your partner, where there is the fact that you are being controlled, where you are unclear about who you are within that relationship and outside of that because of the relationship that you're in. If you don't have a fulfilling relationship with your husband or your partner, whatever that is, and you feel put down, gaslighted, emotionally unsafe, that's a toxic relationship to be in. That's a toxic relationship to be in. And oftentimes, when unaware that we're in an abusive relationship, we all recognize domestic violence, the physicality of all of that, and we know it's wrong. When you are in a toxic, emotionally toxic relationship, it's a bit more difficult to unravel. You just know that something doesn't feel right. You yourself, and this can happen for men and women, okay? It's just the fact that I happen to work with women. I'm not excluding men. I'm not saying that all men are, toxic or anything like that. It just so happens that I happen to work with women. But you're in a relationship that you have no power. Your personal power has been taken away. That in itself is toxic. It's important. We need to, if we find ourselves in this kind of relationship, it's unhealthy. It can actually make you physically sick. And one of the things that I want to say actually is when we find ourselves in toxic relationship, it brings a lot of shame and humiliation, especially when it's an emotional thing. There is nothing to see. There's no bruise to see.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.